So this is an example of a client of mine who bought 3 properties in a span of 6 months. And the client was like you guys on TikTok scrolling through, and then they end up on their FYP and they booked a 60-minute consult with me, and that was about 9-10 months ago. And this is a breakdown of their scenario. So again, not disclosing names due to privacy, and I do have their permission to sort of generally talk about this. So basically we have 2 clients, so 2 males. One is an IT manager, his partner is a marketing manager, and they happen to have 2 kids. How, why, where, what, I don't really know. I don't really judge. I know that they're a unique family. They're a family, 2 guys with 2 kids, okay? So one of the guys is on 180K, his partner's on 205K, IT manager's on a 30K bonus per year. This guy gets 60K bonus. This guy gets a car allowance of 20K, and the marketing manager gets a share distribution, which unfortunately with the bank, I can't use it because it's not liquidated. Now, in terms of me doing my preliminary assessment, in terms of looking at income for the IT manager, we use his base income, which is 180K, and he gets super on top, not inclusive because banks don't use super. And then for the 30K bonus, the banks don't use 100%, they use 80%, which works out to be $24,000 plus 180K over here. So we got about 204K, and then the car allowance is 20K, and then we are allowed to use 20% of that. So then we'll be using 224,000. Now for his partner, he's on 205K base and 60K bonus. So again, 60K, hitting 80%, that's 48,000 plus 205K, whoops, will be $253,000. And again, we can't use the share distribution, so we end up with $253,000. Add these together, they become 477K. Now for these guys, they're pretty much late to the game, as I just mentioned, and their objective is to build a property portfolio. And the reason they're late to the game, they explain, because they know they're trying to get the 2 kids either through surrogacy, or I don't know how they got the kids, but they got the kids and they're a happy family right now. So right now they have a prime place of residence which is worth $2 million, and you might be thinking, wow, they earn a big income, but again, their savings are shite. 30 G's here, I know. Now, you guys know me, I'm pretty blunt, so in our preliminary discussion in our 60-minute call, I noticed that and called it out and go, hey, you guys have nearly $500,000 of income. Why do you have 30K savings? What the F have you been doing with your money, yo? And pretty much what happened was they were living the high life, during their mid-20s to 30s. Didn't want to commit to a mortgage, which they eventually did anyway, which I'll go and explain that. They were scared of committing down to more debt. They wanted to live the life. They were, pampering their kid, and obviously one of them was going through a divorce. Now, at this point, before watching my video, they were like, 30 G's, what are we gonna buy with that? But afterwards, watching the video, they're like, what? I can release equity from my property? Because they have a $2 million property which they bought about 15 years ago, which went up in a lot of value because they bought in Inner West, and their home loan currently with one of the major banks is $700K, which about 7 months ago I refinanced and it released equity, and this is what happened. 80% of $2 million is $1.6 million. Plug that here, 1.6 mil, and they owe $700K. So $700K is existing debt. This minus that is $900K of equity that we can pull out. Now, when I told them about this about 8 to 10 months ago, their jaws just dropped to the desk, and they're like, what? 900 G's the bank will give us? I'm like, yes. And on top of that, they will give you 80% lending up to $2.5 million. Let's slice and dice. How many properties do you want? These guys were looking at each other and go, look, we're in our late 40s, we're nearly our 50s, we've got 1 property, we're paying too much in tax. We want actually 1. I'm like, you sure? Maybe 2. I'm like, you sure? Well, let's do 3. That's our goal, 3. If this is our timeline, in a span of 6 months, they've actually purchased 3 properties with the help of a buyer's agent. And no, I didn't recommend one. I told them to do their due diligence to find their own one, because I don't like recommending buyer's agents in case they buy you a crap property and you blame me. So they end up buying 1, 2, 3, 600, 550, and an $850,000 property. 1 is in Victoria, 1 is in Queensland, and 1 is in New South Wales. Now again, guys, they only had $30,000 in terms of cash. So what happened was, to buy a $600,000 property, 20% plus stamp duty is $150,000. 20% plus stamp duty of $550 is $137,000, and 20% plus stamp duty of $850 is $212,000. So in total, they needed $499,000, which is basically 500 G's. And what happened was when I refinanced their $700,000 loan, I created a $900K loan, separate loan for investment purposes with an offset account filled with the $900,000 interest only, so they don't pay anything on it. And from there, they drew out each of the deposits to make up the 500K. They currently have about 400K remaining for maybe another 2 to 3. Now, mind you, these guys are pretty, I wouldn't say scaredy cats, but they're very risk averse. So they like to, cross their T's, dot their I's. That's why they took that long during the due diligence phase before they even decide to use me. And then we got a pre-approval. They're ahhing, what should I do? Should we get 700, 900 cash out? They eventually, thought about it. Also spoke to a financial planner and an accountant and said, let's do it. And in the span of 6 months, aggressively bought 3 properties. So right now, in hindsight, these 3 properties, they're actually negative geared because that's their strategy, because they're paying too much in tax from over here. So I reckon from this, they're probably almost like half their tax bills that are due when they do the next tax returns, because there's a lot of artificial loss that's been produced here. But then the property that they're buying, the location, there's a lot of growth when they, they're in their late 40s, in the next 10 years, maybe double. So the reason why I'm sharing this story, there's twofold. Number one is you're never late to the game, okay? These guys are in their late 40s. They thought, it's gonna be too hard. Like, we're late, we're gonna retire, we're gonna have one property. But they happen to see some videos I produced and they're like, hey, it's pretty simple, maybe I can do it too. And they did do it, aggressively of course, and did 3 properties in 6 months. But another fault of it is for the younger guys in their early careers, early 20s, late 20s, even early 30s. It's not too soon to buy a property, because like these guys, they left it too late and now they're aggressively trying to catch up. And yes, their income is higher than you, but I can tell you right now, with your, 1/3 of their income, you can still buy something. And if you sat on that for the next 10 to 15 years until these guys decide to buy, that 10, 15 years would have grown a lot of capital growth in your property that you bought earlier. And whilst these guys are trying to catch up to you, what I'm trying to say is twofold. You're not too early to buy, and you're also not too late to get into the property market. But again, guys, I do encourage you to do your due diligence. I break it down for most of my clients, what they're getting into, what are the repayments, what are the rates, what does the timeline look like, are they speaking to a buyer's agent, are they speaking to an accountant, are they speaking to a financial planner, getting all that homework done first before they get into the property market. And yes, again, this is a long video, but for those that watched thus far, it means you're the right clientele to speak to me, because you have the patience to really go through the fine print, cross the T's, dot the I's before you get into the property market. Do it properly, don't rush, and hopefully I get to speak to you soon. Jump in the comments, let me know if you have any questions.